Hello there, everybody. My name is Jacob, and welcome back to the Epileptic Gamer Podcast. First episode in year 3. It's a miracle. And I am so happy I get a chance to do this. I know I promised last week that all my friends would be here for Arcane Season 2, Act 2. But they had things to do. Turns out when you have a life, you can't always record on the same day. So you're stuck with me for the next hour, probably. Depending on how long this goes. So, let's dive right into it, shall we? Because we have a lot to talk about in Act 2. It was a very slow-paced act, which is a good thing. I don't think you need to come out swinging all the time. Act 1, it set the tone of what they needed to get done. Act 2 was the perfect way of, here's what we're going to develop, here's how we can do it, and it gives us more details on, if you look back on Season 1, you go, oh, that makes more sense. Now, there is a lot of stuff I have to talk about, and I mean that I have at least 15 notes here, but we're going to start with Commander Caitlin. I was dead wrong when I say that Caitlin was going to start having doubts. She started having doubts in episode 4. You can see it on her face when, well, first off, the first 5 minutes completely blew my mind. I did not see what Caitlin was doing. I did not see that coming in the slightest. I can't say that without getting the explicit flag, so I'm not going to say it. But, whenever you see her in the map room with Ambessa, she looks at her and really just says to her, no, I don't trust you. You're not giving me a reason to trust you. And it's basically the ultimate form of disrespect by her saying, double-edged sword, whatever. And Ambessa said, trust is a double-edged sword. It was, in my opinion, Caitlin kind of knew at that time, I don't trust this girl. I know I shouldn't be trusting this girl. I don't think she knew she was getting manipulated then, but she had that sliver of doubt. Not the full-on, alright, I'm ready. I'm ready to kind of leave. But she knew. I've watched it twice. Once by myself and once with my friends, that you guys all know. And the biggest thing that I took away from it is that Ambessa 100% whispered in Caitlin's ear. Easily. She knows how to make Caitlin tick. She used her like a fiddle. She played her like a fiddle, is what I should say. I'm sorry. And honestly, I don't know how this might be multiple parts. This, considering how fast and how much I had to go. Because this is episode 1, if we're already 3 minutes in. But Caitlin has doubts immediately. She's looking at Ambessa like, if we're doing martial law, we're doing it my way. And there's a time skip, too. That's something that nobody has pointed out. Whenever there's the scene with Maddie and Caitlin in bed, Caitlin says it herself, I didn't expect it to go on this long. So, it's safe to say that martial law went on for, I would say, months. They thought they would find Jinx sooner. But Jinx is gone. That leads me to my next point. Throughout the entire second act, we don't see Jinx at all. That isn't Jinx. That's Powder. Powder is the one we see in Act 2. Hell, you could argue Powder is the person we see in Act 1. Because when she puts Soko in the water in episode 2 of Act 1, she says, somebody put holes in all you. Somebody. She never says Jinx or I put holes in you. Somebody did. So I think that was Powder symbolically saying, this is my past. I'm done with it. That's the way I kind of looked at it. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think on it. But in my opinion, that's the way I see it. I see from the very beginning of season 2, there's definitely, well, there's not a time skip, but I think Powder and Jinx, they were already slowly slipping. And when Powder dropped the line, I want to kill the rest of my family, I wonder who said that. I want to have to go back and watch it. But I personally think it's Powder. Because Jinx didn't exist when Milo, Vander, and Clagger died. That was not Jinx. Powder is the one that set that bomb off by mistake when she thought she was helping. So I personally think we never saw one frame of Jinx. Not one frame in Act 1. And I think we only saw Jinx one time in Act 2, and that's when the Enforcers got her surrogate daughter, Isha. You start to see all the hallucinations again. And I reinforce the fact, because you're probably thinking, that doesn't make sense, she should be Jinx, she's always Jinx. There's no hallucinations. Powder never had hallucinations. She did once, and it was when you saw the Enforcers, and you see Powder has that same Enforcer reaction again that she has in episode 1, when she sees an Enforcer reaction. So, we see Powder throughout the entire season. And this is only Act 2. Act 3, I'm very curious, because it seems that she's working with the Council now. So I think Jinx is gone. Act 2 is a redemption arc for Jinx. And I'm all for it. I'm curious to see how they're going to branch it. Because if this is League lore now, they're going to have to redo a lot of voice lines. Because this is going to be crushing. Act 3, I can only imagine, is going to crush people. But what catches my attention the most is Savika doesn't know who killed Silco. She only says that you're dead and I'm stuck cleaning up your damn mess. That's an episode. I believe episode 2. So she doesn't know. So something tells me, maybe they're just like, okay, we don't have time to address it. And I can 100% see that being the case. Or maybe she does know. And she's just like, yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep this all together. Savik is a follower. You see that when she follows Jinx. And more importantly, I think Savika is not going to be Renata Gloss. People speculate that for the longest time. I think if anyone came out of League, that anyone that was going into League was Ambessa, and she just got added. So I do not see Savika becoming Renata. She is not that. That's not what's going to happen. And this is something that I want to point out. This is an extremely small detail. You'd have to blink, and it's a blink and you miss a detail. Powder's hair is much longer. And I don't know if that's definitely by choice. This is the only reason why I noticed this is because of one of the scenes when her hair is dangling really low. You can see it almost goes down to her feet. Originally, it just went out to her ankles. So that makes me wonder, maybe did Isha, did she change it? I'm curious. I wonder if they will ever do a Q&A and say, hey, what made you make the hair that long? Or maybe they're setting that up for her to become Jinx that we see in League of Legends. I'm very curious to see how this is going to go. Either way, Jinx's hair is now longer. But let's get on to Act 2 because I was just talking about Act 1 for a bit. That's just some of the stuff I was reinforcing. I think the biggest thing that we are going to have to point out is whenever she busts out everybody from Stillwater. This is not Warwick yet. This is not the Vander thing yet. We see Babette that gets arrested. And for those of you that need a reminder on who Babette is, she is who Vi went to go see in the brothel in season 1. And she says to them, I always will do something for Vander's kids. Whenever you watch her leave the prison, she is the only person to stand in front of Powder and just give her a genuine smile. She knows it's not Jinx anymore. She can see the look on her face. She is proud of where Powder is at. And that's a really cool little detail. They didn't have to have Babette in there. And it goes to show that martial law, they're arresting innocent people. They were just there. So, the fact that you have Babette, which is a perfect way to set up the fact that Jinx is the I'm a damn hero arc. That's pretty cool. And I like the way they did it. Babette being the person that says, you're Powder. I don't see you as Jinx. I like that. That's a lot. That's a really cool callback to season 1. And if you pay attention to the small details like I tend to, that's why I give all these my ratings a decent score. I think personally, episode 1 was a 9. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to the reason why. Episode 4 is a 9, I'm sorry. And the fact that, yeah, Babette's like, thank you. And not just any thank you. Like, everybody just touches her on the shoulder. But she was the one that was the most genuine. And it was the most interesting one. It's like, and that's like, they had the camera on her too. That's what was curious. So they genuinely wanted you to see her. So, the fact that they had you acknowledge her was just like, okay, that's something that you should keep an eye on. So that goes to show that at least Riot Studios or 4T, whoever makes it, they want you to at least see that this is a redemption arc. And I love that. I love that Jinx was so convinced that she could not have happiness at the end of Act 1. Isha literally falls the same way Powder fell, directly into Jinx. And that leads me into my next part. Powder adopts Isha as the surrogate. People say sister. I disagree. I think it's surrogate mother. Just by the way Powder acts. She says Jinx is a different lifetime. Powder's a different. You remind me of Powder. Everything screams that this is Powder. And she's a mom now. Which is perfect. Like, I think that's what's perfect for Powder. She gets to see. And I hope they show like a little cutaway off camera that had Isha show that I don't see you as Jinx. I see you as my mom. That would be a nice little scene that they could have. It's not going to happen. I wish it did happen. But, I mean, it's up in the air. I don't think what happened, I don't think the ending is what we are convinced we are seeing. I think there's a different ending in place here. But I do think the fact that we got to see Powder become Vander in many ways when it comes to caring for a child in season 2 was awesome. Powder got to be, well, Jinx got to be shown that you don't have to hold on to anger. And she even says that in episode 6. Ever since you dropped, and this is the exact quote, ever since you dropped into my life, I have been looking through a lens, and I can't tell if it's clear or blurry. That goes to show that she is teetering on, you dropped in my life. I can't tell if I'm going into the blurry route, where it stings, or the clear route where I want to be going, which is Powder. That's what I love about this. That's what I love about Arcane in general. It's if you pick up on these subtle things, it's like, damn, this is good writing. I am going to miss this show when it's over. I'm going to miss doing these episodes. Because, in my opinion, Arcane will go down as one of, if not the best show of all time. This is a once-in-a-lifetime show. None of the spin-off shows are going to beat what we have now. They say they're going to make spin-off shows. Nothing can beat the genuine article. Nothing. And that's what gets me to the next one. I personally noticed, and this is something that I really did notice a lot, that only enforcers were stationed in Stillwater Prison. Or Backwater Prison, as Mbessa called it. Which I thought was interesting. It goes to show that Mbessa doesn't give a shit. Because if she was there, she got to see and oversee that prison. So why wasn't Nox's soldiers there? Especially you have Jinx now in this prison. Well, imagine their surprise when you have a giant, probably 800-pound werewolf coming through the prison. Jinx isn't the biggest priority. And they show that. And good on Riot Studios for showing that the enforcers look back at Jinx and they realize that if you have Jinx and Zavika, two highly big profile criminals that are about to break out, and then they hear that, on human instinct, you're thinking, I'm defending myself. I do not need to get those two right now. It's on me. I love that small attention to detail. It is genuinely what a human would do. I can see, and also the way that they show the aftermath is phenomenal, in my opinion. Loved every bit of it. Warwick destroying Mbessa's mask entirely. Loved it. That scene entirely was perfect. The whole reveal of Sin's just slowly dropping the blood on where he's at, and him telling Isha, we're not going to be here long, is perfect in my opinion. It's just the ultimate, yeah, no, I'm just going to chill here, you guys can go, is just great. And it's such good writing, because Singed is that type of guy who he knows what he has. He knows what kind of toll and what kind of beast is coming, and he is ready to use it. And the second Warwick came out, and we got to see him look around, first off, I don't think a lot of people noticed, he stops Vander, who is Warwick, he stops in front of his statue. Brilliant detail right there. It's a blink and you miss it, but he stops and looks up, and he goes, oh, there's me, but he, like Sin says, the mind isn't there, he couldn't recover the mind fully. So he keeps running towards the blood. Such a cool detail. And then we get to the ending, where Warwick is fighting Powder. I almost said Jinx on instinct. But Warwick is fighting Powder, and they are going toe-to-toe. She's holding her own. And that's what was really cool. They didn't let Powder be weak. They showed that the shimmer that Singe put in him, the shimmer that is inside of Powder and inside of Warwick, we finally got to see them go head to head. And she on her own for a decent amount of time. Until he lifts her up. And the subtle realization that Warwick takes a look at their grenade, and something in his mind ticks, and you see the final line of the episode being Warwick simply saying, Powder. And she doesn't object to it. She doesn't say the name is Jinx now. And the background music. I say, as I'm saying this now, I have goosebumps. The first scene we ever see in Arcane, Powder sings Dear Friend Across the River. And that's when we see them meeting Vander. The first time Powder sees her father again, the song Dear Friend Across the River is a piano version. I love that. That small attention to detail, even if it's a tiny thing that you can't hear, that is what makes scenes like that so powerful. And then it cuts to black. Love it. You can't replicate stuff like that. You cannot write that thing more perfectly And then we cut to the next episode immediately, and it picks up. We see what Vi's been up to, and we don't see a lot of Pit Fighter Vi. I thought we would have. I thought we were going to get this whole solid episode, but no, we got like 2 or 3 minutes. But we finally get the sisters reunion, which I kind of liked. The way that even though you saw the sister fight happen, it wasn't the real sister fight that everybody was talking about. It was the one that happened after, which was the true sibling fight, where we finally see Vi completely in her element, fighting everybody constantly. She gets knocked out, she loses her friend, until finally Jinx comes to her apartment. Powder comes to her apartment, and just mockingly rapes Jinx, because she has to. That's her little graffiti. She has to put graffiti on her. And Vi freaks out, because the last time you saw her, she associates Vi is associating Powder with how she lost Caitlyn. And I can see that, and she even says, "Don't you dare say another word." I love that. That's perfect. People complain that Act 2 was slow. I get it. But in my opinion, slow and steady wins the race. There you go. That's probably the best way of saying it. Slow and steady wins the race here. And I feel like that is the biggest thing. If you look at it from the long run, you have to say it in Vi's shoes, at least. I just saw my sister, who I just she just essentially broke up my relationship, and now she's coming here at my lowest and saying, our dad's alive, and I'm calling her out on it. Until she says, I have proof. Okay. If this is the trick, I'll hear her out. And then we get that little... then I'm going to get back to that. Because we have a nice little... we have a scene where you see Vander with... in the mirror with Powder holding up, which we see in the trailer. But that's not what I want to talk about. Powder hates all those murals, yes. But Caitlyn gets a hold of Singed, and she finds out, and she picks it up pretty instantly, which goes to show how damn good of an investigator and cop that Caitlyn really is. That the beast, Warwick, came for Singed. And my God, did Mbessa get to her. She literally threatens to throw Singed about 200 feet underground and say, I'm going to let you stay there for the rest of your days. Okay. That picked up quickly. But what I thought was great is one line. And I wrote it down because I had to point it out. Caitlyn snaps when she hears it too. Singed says, because when Caitlyn says, why is it when everybody is silent they are usually guilty? Singed replies with the biggest burn, in my opinion. All people in power are never innocent. And that makes Caitlyn snap. But not only snap, the camera focuses on Caitlyn as he says it. So it's almost like, yeah, you are not innocent on any of this. What's happening to me, it's also on you. It's not on Noxus. Caitlyn knows what she's doing is wrong. Which is the best. I think that's what's best about it. They are pointing out the obvious. It is formula... Mbessa's... I'm trying to say it. I love this show so much, I can't even make words properly. It is storytelling at its finest. The character gets called out on her bullshit, and the camera focuses on it. As the camera saying, hey, you need to look at this line. And as the character says the line, she snaps, and that's when it cuts back to Singed. I love it. That scene was a complete jab at Caitlyn. Not at Mbessa. Singed knew who to target. He is that smart. And that's what I liked about it. But now let's continue going, because now we gotta we're about 26 minutes in, yeah. And we're only on episode 5. It's been a lot of fun so far. But, yeah, hopefully this is a shorter episode. But episode 5, we're now in the mines with Vi and Powder and Isha. And what I think is hysterical is you finally see these two who have been festering for such a long time. And we get to see what the mines look like. We get to see what the fissures look like, which is cool. And I just lost my notes. That ain't good. But, yeah, we get to see what the fissures look like. So, the fact that we got to see all of it, and I mean it, you saw everything. And Jinx even picks it up and goes, I'm pretty sure this stuff isn't toxic, and eats it. It's kind of a silly daughter moment for Isha. Like, she's trying to keep the kid entertained while she fights with her sister. I love that. That is such an ingenious thing to have. And finally, Vi snaps, saying, just tell me this is the trick so I can leave. And they just go back and forth, until the biggest thing happens that stands out to Vi. Well, first off, the world's best bitch slap in the world comes from Jinx. I mean, Powder. It's just great. I loved it. And it was the big, subtle, oh shit, and the lights around it. The slap was so loud, the lights, the salt, just light up. Loved the scene. And almost like a complete contrast between the two sisters. The Powder, who is dimmed, the lights down there, she's calm. Meanwhile, on Vi's side, which is all where the lights are, she's furious. I love it. I love that how they have that shot where Powder's dimmed down, she's calm, she wants this to work. Vi is convinced this isn't going to work. And then the sibling fight breaks out. And Isha comes to her mom's aid, bites Vi, and just like she did to Powder, hits her in the exact same spot. And Powder doesn't continue fighting Vi. She doesn't do that. No. To Vi's shock, she gets shoved off her and goes to Isha, and instantly she looks at her like, holy shit. This isn't Jinx. This is my sister. This is my sister Powder, and she's caring for this kid. And more importantly, you can see on her face, I just struck another 11-year-old. I am not learning any lessons. That isn't good. But the fact that it was just kind of a good sibling fight that they just took subtle jabs at each other. In my opinion, the one in the mines in Act 2, I think that was the funniest one. And it was probably one of the highlights of the moment for the series. Especially because despite Act 1's fight being more upbeat and it having the biggest stakes, I think Act 2, it took the cake. Because it was finally it's like they got out what they needed to say to get on the same page. And the fact that they find Vander's old office, and it's a letter to Soko, and Vi lets Powder read it because she was closest to Soko, is such a cool thing people don't get that, but you would think, oh, she finds the note, why wouldn't she read it? Why wouldn't she read it? And the cool thing about the note is, you'll say, I will never understand why I did this. You'll probably never understand it either. I'm sorry. And you can see Vi's face as the entire time. She's slowly starting to forgive her sister as Vander's words are being read out. It's almost as if she's hearing it and she's being told, wake the hell up. She is here. This is Powder. This isn't Jinx. And that's what I liked about it. And we even got to see Soko's old mining jacket and Vander's old mining jacket. And his old gauntlets. It was everything. That scene, in my opinion, was probably the most pivotal of them all. for at least Vi's standpoint. That was finally the scene that says, boom, we're sisters. Paladin got her closure with Soko, and Vi got her closure with Vander. In a way. Now, what I want to say is, technically, and I say this on a technical level, when Vi finds out, like, she was going to fight him, but she yells Vander, we cut to an interesting scene. And this is the perfect time I want to bring this up. It is with Soko, a very young Soko, a very young Vander, and this woman. People didn't know who she was at first. Until it comes out that it's Felicia. Violet's and Powder's mother. And it turns out that Felicia and Vander and Soko all work together to get Zahn in place. Holy shit. So that just means one giant crucial detail. Technically, when you think about it, Powder and Vi are the most two important people in Piltover and Zahn right now. Because that technically, if you're looking at the founders of Zahn, in the hierarchy, Vi and Powder are very high up on the list. So, it's a good full circle moment. And whenever she tells Vander that she's pregnant with Vi, the subtle cup switch. It's not just any cup. It's Powder's cup. Before it gets drawn on. So Vander knew what cup to give Powder in Season 1. Love that detail. Brilliant detail. I'm so happy Riot Studios did that. It's like if you didn't see it, and you would never understood it. But the way Vander reacts makes me think, if we're going to find out in Act 3, is he the father? Is he the true father? Because down in the Utopia, in Victor's little glorious Utopia, as he called it, or commune, he called it a commune. They say they don't remember the smell of their father, only Vander, and the smell of their mother, which is always axle grease. Never once their father. I think we can all do the math here. Vander, you are the father. And that's why he even pitched the name out. I've always liked the name Violet. Love it. I hope the god of Vander is the father. That final, even though it's going to be a gut punch because you see it, the fact that they're helping him get help, they want to get him out of there, and they can't. It's bittersweet. And what I love about that whole scene is she says, hey, what's so special about this record? It's the same record that gets played every time the scene gets picked up when it says a Netflix series. I wonder, though, if we're going to find out what the song actually is. What's it called? I hope it's called something cool. Like, I'm very curious to see if they ever figure out the meaning behind the song. Like, maybe, I don't know, this is what their mother left them. Something like that. Maybe it's something like in the will. But I think what's cool about everything is when you get, now we're at the commune now. This is, I think, episode 6. We're done with episode 5. Yeah, episode 6. We're at the commune. Caitlyn is now completely doubting. She is in full undoubt mode. She's like, I don't like this shit one bit. There's one line I want to say that Caitlyn gets to see. She sees Sin's experiments, and she calls him out on a monster. And it looks like she's about to arrest him. Then she realizes, oh shit, he's working for Mbessa. Now I can't arrest him. She goes, and that was, I think, the first seed of, she's going behind my back now. That's not good for me. That's definitely not good for me at all. If I have control of her forces, why is she making backdoor deals? That's the way I looked at it. And that's, I think, the way Caitlyn's looking at it. And she calls out the fact that there's no record of this guy's crime, why did he get dismissed from the academy? And then we find out he not only had mortifying experiments, like we all know, he made shimmer, like we all know, but apparently he was using academy experiments, so she straight up calls him out on it. And one line hits Caitlin the most. And I think it's and again, this is where they focus on Caitlin. The camera is focused on Caitlin as he says it. He says, and I have to find it here, I'm sorry. Here it is. Why do others condemn acts inconceivable for love? And the entire time, Caitlin has that little, her eyebrows, frolic. Yeah, I can start to see where I'm going wrong here. She starts to see my little downfall. And I love it. I do. The fact that it's coming from people in Zon to have her slowly doubt herself, it's not coming from Mbessa. It's coming from people in Zon. And I think that's great. And I think it's even funnier that it's coming from a criminal, of all people. Which is technically what Vi is and Powder is. So the fact that it's coming from a criminal, and that's kind of like, well, they have backdoors deal now, well, that's not good. And then we get to the commune, and first off, Caitlin kicks Vi's ass. In every way, shape, and form. But you can see the worry on her face when General walks up to the guy in front of the commune. He's saying, surrender your weapon, and the second he doesn't, at first, there's a brief worry like, is she really gonna let him kill this dude? Like, that's the moment where she really realizes, I'm on the wrong side of history. It's time to jump ship. And that's the best part of it all. Finally, Vi starts to pick up on it. And as she's walking to the Noxus camp, I don't know what her plan was. I don't think anybody kind of knew what her plan was. Caitlin. Maybe she thought she was going to see Caitlin. She saw the flag, she realizes, dang, martial law, I'll see Caitlin. Huh, who knows? That might be where I was going. Either way, Caitlin doesn't recognize Vi. And she kicks her ass. And then all it took was for her to say, don't sugarcoat it, cupcake. And we get season 1 Caitlin back. Loved it. It took Vi to say that one line for Caitlin to snap out of the whole commander shtick. And she played her part well. But she went with all the old tricks that they had. It was legitimately the greatest hits. And I like it. This is what's amazing. They knew what worked for them. They had to give it a strong sell. And more importantly, Caitlin trusts Powder with the plan. That's the biggest step of them all. Vi imagine the biggest pitch in the world to say, hey, yeah, Jinx is in there. But she's kind of Powder again, and we're trying to save my dad. That is probably an extremely hard pitch to do, and I cannot see that going well with Caitlin very well. And we think, at first, that Jinx is going to shoot Caitlin. She has Zappy, or Zapper, I think. Zappy or Zapper. And she goes, here's the punchline. And then they wait. Caitlin's about to get turned on, and boom, she takes him out. Loved it. And then we get the team up. Like I called last week. I love it when a plan comes together. We get the team up of Caitlin, Vi, and Powder. Not Jinx, but Powder. I love it. And it's going to be so much fun because now we got two Zon Knights. Two people from Zon or Zon Knights, whatever you want to call them. Someone from Piltover now going to the council and saying, we have a problem. This is going to be, actually it's going to be great and crushing at the same time. And the funniest thing is when Powder goes to save, and this is what reinforces, in my opinion, Jinx being gone. When Powder goes to save Caitlin from the general there. And she gets overpowered. Before she gets overpowered, there's like a little guitar version of Get Jinxed getting played in the background. Just like pump up the scene. And then the second that she gets caught, it's done. So it's like the fact that they're not playing the words to Get Jinxed goes to show that, yeah, no, she's not Jinx anymore. It's Powder. And even Victor calls her Powder. And she has a little, like, panic attack, like, I'm still getting adjusted to it, but then she responds to it. I love it. We see Powder in Act 2, and this worries me for what happens now. The biggest, and I mean this, but this is going to be tough to do. First off, Isha sacrifices herself to save Powder, Vi, and Caitlin. That's a lot. And Vi held Powder back. Part of me makes me wonder, is that going to be a big plot point in Act 3? Why did you hold me back? I could have gotten her, or in that all that. And in reality, Powder could not have gotten her. If you look at it, there's too many guards. Only Isha could have pulled it off. At the same time, another part of me wonders, did Powder ever plan for that gun to overload? She had to. I can almost guarantee she had to experiment with 2 Hextech gemstones at a time. She may not have always had them, but she probably looked at it and said, I can maybe make this work. And on top of that, did Isha survive? In my opinion, yes. I think Isha survives the blast. I know what you're about to say. How on earth does someone survive a blast like that? We saw her get eradicated. What you didn't see, however, is that there's a time jump. There is a time jump that looks exactly like Echo's move. And it's like they're fixing everything from the void. Jace came back from the void. Echo and Heimerdinger are considered dead. But what happens if Echo comes back right then and there? We know Echo still has to fight. I think Isha survived. I think maybe they find that and they test it, and it just so happens to be at the blast. The blast still hits, but Isha gets thrown out of the way. I love it. Then we just go to Victor's speech, and that's it. We do not see the aftermath of what happened with that battle. We see Warwick fall. We see one big flash, and then it just goes to Victor's speech. And now we don't know what's happening in Act 3. And I am terrified for that. Act 3 is going to be insane. Act 3 is the final 3 episodes of what is arguably considered the best TV show for animation. And I am not ready for this show to end. I am going to miss making episodes on this. But I think they did great. I think, and this is my final thought, the way that they were, like, people think, oh, it's too slow. I think you needed a slow act. You had to show Caitlyn's journey throughout the Commander. Like, why she's starting to doubt Ambessa. I think you had to see that. And I love it. I think Act 2 is perfect. If I had to give episode ratings, episode 4, a 9. Episode 5, a 10. I think the way they reunited the sisters, I think that was just perfect across the board. They had the usual sibling fight where they just complained back and forth, and we got to see what Powder was. Episode 6, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I think this is its strongest act, and I give Act 2 overall a 9.5. Because this is the pre-ultimate of everything. This is it. folks, I know I'm a little bit late with this, but it's time. The end is here. This is the final episode before the finale. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait to recap that. I cannot wait for that episode. I'm probably going to cry, and I will be the first to admit that I did cry watching Act 2. So, I can only imagine what Act 3 has in store for me, because I might not last long. I might do a watch long, I don't know. But, I can't wait. And look at that, I was able to keep this under an hour. That's nice. But that is all, folks. I will see you all. If it's not this week, I'll see you all this Sunday night, give or take, when the next episode comes out for Act 3. And, as always, you guys have a great Thanksgiving, if I don't talk to you by then, which I will be, yeah. I'll see you on the next episode of Arcane. How about that? Which should be the 23rd to the 25th, in that area. That's when you should get it. So, I will see you all then. Have a good one. Happy holidays. And once again, we're on to year 4. Bye-bye.